One last time from here at Ford Field. This game had questionable calls, defensive struggles, and Matthew Stafford and Marvin Jones Jr. balling out. It was a bit of a microcosm of the last couple of years of Lions football. The Lions finished at 5-11 on the 2020 season after falling to the Minnesota Vikings 37-35 here in Week 17. Welcome into the Detroit Lions postgame show presented by Ford. I'm your host, Tori Petrie. We've got our analyst TJ Lang down at the Henry Ford Health System update desk to talk about this game with us. TJ, it was a heartbreaker here for the Lions to see this 2020 campaign end like this one. What did you feel like went wrong for the Lions today?
Well, I heard in your opening there about the questionable calls. I think, obviously that's going to be a tough one. Twitter's already going crazy with especially the roughing the passer one on Tracy Walker was just abysmal. The guys played hard, though. I thought there were a lot of really nice individual performances. Matthew Stafford, you can't say enough about that guy. I mean, everybody knows, well documented, the injuries that he's had the last couple weeks and really battling through all year. Just to come out, be the Iron Man that he was once again today, leading the team down up and down the field. Really nice performance by him. Marvin Jones Jr. obviously can't say enough about him either, Tori. I think he second, questionable call obviously robbed him of what would have been his third touchdown in the game on just a beautiful throw and catch. But a lot of really good individual performances, but it just kind of came down to, in my mind, really the second half. You look at the drive chart going back in the first quarter. I think the first three drives the Vikings had 9 plays, 12 yards of offense throughout the first quarter, and then they just started rolling. Touchdown, field goal, touchdown, touchdown. They had the one stop that the Lions defense was able to get was on a missed field goal. So really it just came down to the second half, just not being able to stop Kirk Cousins, and Justin Jefferson obviously had a huge day. And then late in the game, again, we've seen it kind of just on repeat this year. You have a chance to get a stop and maybe get the ball back, and they run around the edge for the first down, 2-minute warning, taking the knee, game over. But I thought it was a pretty inspiring effort by a lot of the guys. Obviously not going to the playoffs, but guys have a lot of pride. They want to finish the season the right way, and although they didn't come out with the win today, I thought there were a lot of really nice individual efforts.
Yes, some very high highs from the Lions in this game, but some low lows as well. You mentioned those defensive struggles and the day that Kirk Cousins had in the passing game. 405 passing yards for Cousins on the day, 133 receiving yards for Justin Jefferson. This game set a franchise record for most points and most yards allowed in a single Lions season. Not a record that you want to set in a season ever. And, that was really the story of this Lions defense all season long. They had 5 games where they gave up over 40 points in a game. TJ, what was going wrong with this Lions defense this season?
Honestly, it came down to fundamentals in my mind. I don't think I ever watched a game, even today watching the game, I never really saw a lack of effort or a lack of pride. It was just not being able to get off blocks. First guy, just all season long, the first guy always had trouble bringing down the ball carrier. Now you're talking about second and third guy trying to come in. It doesn't sound like a big deal, but those 5-6 extra yards add up at the end of the game. So I think it was just disappointing, because knowing how the coaches coach and the players practice and everything that goes on throughout the week, they put so much pride into doing the fundamentals right and the individual drills, making sure that everything is on point. Then for whatever reason, it just didn't translate to games this year, and we obviously saw that again today. First 3 drives, they looked really good. They were swarming the ball. They were getting them down. They were forcing punts. And then the rest of the game, it was just up. Here we go again. The same things that have been ailing them all season, not being able to tackle, not being able to get a stop on third down. Those things they really add up. And this performance they had today, obviously you mentioned the bad record that they set for the franchise with points and yards allowed. I mean, it was earned. It was well earned. And I know that's not really a positive way to say it, but they just couldn't, for whatever reason, get over the hump this year or try to nip those things in the bud. When they popped up week 2, week 3, it just kind of carried on all season long. They weren't able to fix it. And I think, from a player's perspective, you obviously take a lot of pride in that. From a coaching perspective, that's probably one of the most frustrating things, is that the individual should be the easiest part of the game. Wrapping, tackling, getting guys down, that should be the easiest part of the game. And to not see any consistency with it through this year, I'm sure was frustrating for all those guys.
TJ, that touchdown that the Vikings scored just before the half was exhibit A of the struggles from this Lions defense so far this season for me. Obviously, they had a prime opportunity to stop them, keep them from getting back on the board again before the half, but they give up that touchdown with just seconds left in the first half, and the tackling on that play was just not good.
No, it wasn't. And the worst part about that, too, is if they tackle him in bounds, BB in bounds, the clock's running out. The Vikings don't have a chance. They are out of timeouts. They don't have a chance to get any points at the end of the half. Obviously, a huge momentum swing because they won by 2 points, right? All season long, I don't know if it was kind of a stress factor for the players, but it was consistently seeing guys trying to always go for the big hit and lower the shoulder and trying to just level somebody and knock somebody out rather than just simply wrapping your arms and tackling the guy. And that's what we saw in the big play to BB. You had a couple guys that came in. The first player, I think it was Justin Coleman. Nothing against Justin Coleman. He's a great football player, but he comes in, lowers the shoulder, kind of pushes BB towards the end zone. And the other two guys that had a chance to make a play on the ball were just kind of standing there. It looked like they thought maybe he was going down, whatever it was. But
right.
That single play right there was kind of a microcosm of the whole season, right? We just see you have guys in position to make the plays. For whatever reason, they're just not able to do it on a consistent basis. And that play, that touchdown to end the half, really was the big difference in this game. And that's kind of sums up. You watch that one play, and you want to know what went wrong for the Lions this year, you watch that play. That sums up pretty much 16 games worth of not being able to finish a play.
Yeah, well, let's take a look at the team comparison between the two team statistics today on the field. Obviously, the receiving yards was what really made the difference here in this game, the 383 yards from the Minnesota Vikings. But it wasn't a bad day for the Lions in the passing game by any means at all. 508 total yards for the Vikings, 417 from the Lions. Both teams had 5 touchdowns there. Of course, the difference was that one had a missed extra point, and then they had a failed 2-point conversion as well. This game was 2 very good offenses, explosive offenses with a lot of weapons, but it just came down to that the Vikings were able to finish and that the Lions defense just didn't have anything to support their offense's effort today, DJ.
Yeah, and I think you kind of feel a little bit bad for the offensive side of the ball, as in it just seems like those guys almost put a little bit too much pressure on themselves, knowing that they probably have to score 30 or 40 points a game to win. And I'm not trying to be mean, Tori, but it's just the truth. I mean, 7 points today, 41, 47 the last 2 or 3 games. I mean, it's just this offense, it seems like they can't really afford to make many mistakes. They almost have to play a really, really clean, almost perfect game to go out there and have a chance to win, which obviously we saw again today. The defense, they weren't terrible, but offensively, you talk about Matthew Stafford had really, in my mind, an unbelievable day, and then he has the 1 interception to Harrison Smith. They go down, kick a field goal, win by 2 points, so it's just kind of that. I guess today and all season long, we didn't really see a great amount of complementary football where the offense might make a mistake. Hey, defense, we need you to make a play, maybe get us the ball back, force a punt, whatever it is. Or if the defense is struggling, hey, offense, we need you to go down and score, go on a long drive, let our guys catch their breath, whatever. We didn't see a whole lot of complementary football, but Matthew Stafford, obviously, besides that one throw that he had that ended up in the interception, I mean, I really thought he was phenomenal all day long. He picked up a couple first downs running the ball, which when you have a bad ankle and bad ribs, quarterbacks tend to not want to run the ball, but he laid it all. I think he'll be comfortable saying that he laid it all out there on the line today. It was just unfortunate. You wanted to see him finish the season with a win, but kind of what we talked about all season, just couldn't find a way to finish.
It was still a monster day for Matthew Stafford, for Marvin Jones Jr. as well. We talked about those tough records that were set on the defensive side of the ball, but there were also some really positive records that were set for the Lions on the offensive side of the ball. Matthew Stafford became the fastest quarterback to 45,000 passing yards in NFL history. That is quite the feat. This also became his 4th season where he had 4,000 passing yards. TJ, I mean, this guy deserves all the accolades. He is a fantastic passer.
He absolutely is. And you take a look at that, and I don't remember what year it was, 2010 maybe, where he missed a bunch of games. And you factor all that into him still being able to set these records and set these kind of numbers. I know it's a nice statistic for him to have personally, but I think Matthew will tell you he'd rather have more success winning and maybe get in the playoffs. But from a fan watching and being a friend of his and watching the success that he has, he deserves every ounce of it. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens the next couple months, because there's a lot of unknowns with this football team. New GM coming in, new coach coming in, a lot of talk about what's going to happen. I hope that Matthew Stafford stays here in his entire career, because he always seems like a guy that, for the fans and a player, it's one of those situations where you don't know how good you have it until it's gone, So he definitely deserves every accolade that comes his way and the statistics that he has. He's earned that every step of the way. He's just an ultimate warrior out there on the football field. The guys love him. Tremendous leader. Can't say enough about the guy. So I really just wish they could have found who. I'm not saying I don't know anything that's going to happen, obviously, this offseason, if that was his last game in Detroit. But I hope it wasn't. I know a lot of us hope it wasn't, but really would have liked to see him go out there and get a win. But to finish on a performance like that was definitely inspiring.
Well, we will have to wait and see what happens with a few of these guys whose futures are in question here in Detroit. And another one of those guys is Marvin Jones Jr. He is set to hit free agency, and he too had a record-setting day here at Ford Field. He became the 3rd place receiver in Lions history as far as touchdowns go. So he has caught the 3rd most touchdowns in Lions history. That's only behind Calvin Johnson and Herman Moore. That is pretty great company to be in. That's 36 career touchdowns here in Detroit for Marvin Jones Jr. Gotta say, TJ, I thought it should have been 7 or 37. Thought there should be a 3rd touchdown in there for Marvin Jones Jr. But man, what a day for him. If he is headed into the free agent market to test that and see, what he can get on the free agent market, man, he made a statement today.
Oh, he sure did. And I think I even sent out a tweet after that, what should have been 3rd touchdown, that the season that he's had, especially with Kenny going down, a couple months ago and not being able to return, becoming the number 1 receiver again and making plays game after game after game and making those contested catches. And it seemed like he got robbed of so many great catches this year too. I mean, the one against Green Bay where he toe tapped at the corner, and today, which looked like it should have been the 3rd touchdown, but he just keeps chugging. He doesn't let that get him down, and he's the ultimate teammate. He's an ultimate leader in that locker room. I think no matter what happens with him, whether he returns to this team, he's in line for a nice payday, because he has just been one of the most reliable guys, not only on this team, but receiver-wise around the league, right? I mean, he turns those 50-50 balls into, seems like almost 90-10 in his favor. So super happy for Marv to just have another huge game. Almost got the 200 yards, almost got the 3 touchdowns, but those are 2 really good guys that are tough to pass with Calvin and Herman. That's definitely great company to be in for him.
Yeah, what gets me about Marv is his body control. And you mentioned those other plays that got called back, the toe tap one. I do hope, that everybody's doing their homework on Marvin Jones Jr. on the free agent market knows that this guy probably should have a few more yards than he ended up with at the end of the day when you look at the numbers on the page. I believe he was right there close to passing 1,000 yards for the season. He really should have. He had a couple of calls that did not go his way this season. But, you got to be happy for a guy like Marvin Jones Jr. having the day like he did today. His family has certainly faced their amount of adversity throughout his time here in Detroit, but they're great people. Marv is a great father. father. And, I love seeing that family, have a good day today, cheering their dad on, and see Marvin have a great day on the field as well. I mean, TJ, you know him. Marv deserves this.
100% he does. He deserves everything that comes his way. Like I said earlier, I mean, you really just start running out of adjectives, how to describe the guy and what kind of player he is, what kind of person he is, what kind of teammate he is. He's the ultimate guy. You want that kind of guy in your locker room, no matter where you are in the NFL. You need a guy like that in your locker room. He's so great for the young players. His kind of attitude towards the game and practicing and meetings is just so unbelievable that it's contagious, really for the rest of the room. It's almost like Matthew Stafford, where you have a guy like that, when he's playing at a high level, it kind of elevates everybody else's game. Marv's the same exact way. And really, when he took over a couple weeks ago as a number one guy, I mean, he has done nothing but perform and nothing but execute, and he just deserves. I'm so happy for him because the timing on it is just so great for him. Just going into the free agent market, he's got a chance to sign another really lucrative contract. Hopefully it's here, because that's the kind of guy you want on your football team. But if it's not, you have to be happy for him, just the way, because he's just earned it every step of the way. He's earned it, right? When he came to Detroit from Cincinnati, a bunch of years ago, I mean, he was kind of the unknown guy and just kind of exploded onto the scene, and he's done nothing but match those expectations that he sets for himself year after year after year. So I love Marv. He's one of my all-time favorite teammates, just a great guy. You can't say enough about him. And as a fan, as a friend, I really hope that we see him return and continue his, and maybe even end his career in Detroit.
One of my all-time faves to cover as well, besides you, TJ, of course. This has been a really interesting season for the Lions, and obviously interim head coach Darrell Bevell has been tasked with a huge job taking over this team mid-season. This season didn't go the way that he had hoped that it would, but he was able to catch up with reporters just a few moments ago about this experience that he had coaching this team as the interim. So let's hear what Bevell had to say.
So, really an interesting game there. The thing that I just talked to the guys about in the locker room, as I appreciated how those guys went out and played today. I think you could really see the heart and the respect for the game that they showed, the respect for their teammates that they showed, and you could go all the way down to the goal line stand that our defense had. I mean, just kind of, we had different guys in there in situations with other players going down, skippers in there, and offensive linemen playing in there for the defensive line. A couple of defensive ends had to go in and play inside. To get the stop was great. And unfortunately we got that call, put them back in there again, and to stop them on the next play. I just showed all the fight that those guys had. We had a lot of guys even on offense. The right tackle went down, left guard went down. But the guys that stepped up were ready to play and did a really nice job. So just proud of the effort that those guys showed today.
Michael Hara.
Thanks, Coach. Just getting unmuted here. What sort of emotions do you have? This has got to be an unusual time for you. Do you know not certain what you're walking away from or walking to? Just give us a little bit of insight on how you feel right now.
Yeah, right now I'm actually proud of what we just displayed on the field. We were shorthanded in a lot of ways, and the guys that went in there in the game, I mean, they gave everything they had for the game, for their teammates, so I think that's what I'm feeling right now. Just proud of what those guys did. I mean, it was a hard fought game, and guys stepped up in many ways. I know it wasn't good enough. We did not win the game, which is always the goal. But, some of the shorthandedness and guys just continue to step up and continue to fight, really meant a lot to me.
Just real quick, you mentioned respect for the game numerous times. Is that what you feel today?
Yeah, I've told these guys how much I love this game, how much I respect it. And, I think it says a lot for you to go out there and, in situations, as, you guys might say is meaningless, but, there's a lot of history to this game. There's a lot of people that have been on the field before us, and and to go out and to play continually for one another as hard as they did the whole game long, I think it speaks a lot to these guys.
Larry, what explanation did you get on the roughing the passer call, and what was your viewpoint of
Beebe's touchdown where it looked like a couple of your guys could have got him and one kind of stood there?
So the first part of the question, the explanation was body weight, and that that he came down on him with his full body weight, which I want to take a look at it. I'm not quite sure that happened. I felt that he tried to roll over the top of him as he put him down. And then the second part of your question was what?
Beebe's touchdown, you had a couple guys hit him, and then Duran just kind of stood there like he thought his teammates were going to tackle him. It wasn't a good look.
Oh, is this at the end of the half?
I'm sorry?
At the end of the half is what you're referring to, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, just a terrible misplayed play. I thought we were handling it correctly. We knew, one more play. We felt they were going to try to throw it to the sideline. Had the sideline defense, catch him, tackle it. Instead of tackling and wrapping him up, the guys went for, really trying to kill him and, knock him out of bounds. And, it's just not fundamental ball there. We got to do a better job of wrapping him up.
Sorry, does that play sort of encapsulate what's gone wrong with the defense all season? I mean, poor tackling, people sort of maybe not being on their P's and Q's. You had a chance to get off the field, you didn't there. It just seemed like that was really what happened all year long in that side of the ball.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to put it all in encapsulating in one play, but definitely, Dave. That was not a good play on our part. We talk about fundamentals all the time, and that's a fundamental play in terms of being in the right defense. But then you have to make that play. I mean, you can't let that guy get out like that. You got to be able to make the tackle. You can't go for those kill shots or whatever, or think that somebody else is going to make the play. You got to wrap him up and get him to the ground.
As you look at sort of what went wrong on the whole this year, I know you don't want to put any blame just on one unit, but how much would just solving some of this team's defensive issues make you guys a better team in 2021?
Well, I mean, there's definitely places all around, Dave, that we can get better at. And, I mean, we'll look at the defense, somebody else is probably going to be looking at it. But, that is definitely a place that needs to improve.
You said somebody else could be looking at it. Do you know if you will interview for the head coaching job yet?
We'll find out soon.
Okay. And then last thing, you talked a little bit about Stafford, but just his guttiness to get out there today with all the injuries that he's dealing with and play as well as he did. I know he was big, but, he had a pretty good game.
Yeah, he, it's a cool relationship to have with the quarterback, and I really appreciate what he did. I mean, the guy's out there, not 100%, and he's fighting for his teammates. He's fighting for like I said, he talked to the team last night, and just respect for the game, the history, the guys that have come before us, and the guy's laying everything out there on the line in a game that he doesn't need to. And I think that says a lot about him as a person, about him as a quarterback, what he means to the team. I could sit here and talk to you for a while about him, but I really appreciate what he has done for me and for this team.
That was him delivering a message to the team, like in the team meeting. He said that.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Daryl.
Yep.
All right, guys, two more. Justin, go ahead.
Daryl, I think we saw your fingerprints on the offense after you took over in the interim role. I'm just wondering, how difficult was it to similarly put your fingerprints on the defense, given your focus to taking that position through the end of the season?
Yeah, I think, Justin, it's, I guess I'll answer it this way. I just wanted to have my fingerprint on the team, and offense, defense, especially wherever it was. I think, what I would like you to look at is the games that, that I was involved in, how they played, and, the enthusiasm that they played with, the heart that they played with. And I mean, obviously there's positions, obviously, that, we're going to evaluate and try to upgrade and, all those things, because that happens every year, turnover in the league. But it's one thing to lay down and not finish the season, and it's another thing to play your heart out all the way to the last play. And that was really my main focus, because there wasn't a lot that I was going to be able to do with other parts. And I think I got that.
And then with Marvin Jones' performance, end of a contract, you don't know what's next for him either. How much was in point of emphasis to have him involved in the game plan as much as he was, and what did you think about the performance overall?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what he ended up with. I think he was, I know he had needed like a couple hundred yards to 1,000, and I mean, I love what Marvin has done for us. Great personality. Really comes out every single day. He practices hard. He works at his craft. And, again, he's another one of those guys that loves to play the game. And I think it showed, he showed his ability today. Did I want to give him the ball? Yeah. But Matthew's got to read it. And, sometimes he's the first read, sometimes he's the second read, and you got to go through your progressions. But, he's definitely always in that progression in the earlier stages of it, trying to get him the ball because he makes big plays for us.
Thank you, Bev.
All right, last one, Mike Rothstein.
Hey, Bev, how are you? At the beginning of the season, or not beginning of the season, right before you took this job, you said you were chasing head coaching jobs for a while, and this was your opportunity. When you look at it now, do you feel like you showed enough, whether it's here or elsewhere next year, year after, that you feel like you can be a full-time head coach? Like, do you feel like this was a good audition process for you?
Mike, it's a hard thing to say. I've enjoyed the role. I've learned a lot in this role. And, I told you I've loved every minute of it. And but it's not for me to evaluate. I think it's for the other people to evaluate. Do I think I can handle this role? Absolutely. Do I feel confident in this role? Absolutely. Do I want to do it? Absolutely. But, the opportunity's got to come. But again, I think I'll go back to, my statement earlier is I just want you to look at the guys on how they played, who we have, how they played, the effort with which they showed. And that's going to speak to really as a head coach, how the team plays for you, how they handle the game. And I'll let it speak for itself.
I know Kenny obviously didn't play today, he didn't play the last, majority of the season. What did this offense really miss without him up there?
Well, obviously you miss his big playability, you miss his size, you miss his catch radius, you miss his presence. Just in terms of having that, the big dog, and then it helps the other guys impart your offense. But we didn't have it for most of the year, so it was you have to adjust, you have to go to do other things, and I thought our guys stepped up and really did a good job for that.
Well, it was a wild ride indeed for Darrell Bevell as the interim head coach of this team. Don't go away, guys. We still got more coming up in the post-game show, including Matthew Stafford's press conference and our look ahead to the offseason, as well as the play of the game. We'll be right back.
Let's hold the line. Protect it. Fight for it. Sacrifice for it. Let's look out for each other. We are so close. Soon we will be what we were. Touching, loving, living. Let's finish strong.
All for leaving opponents in our dust, linebackers and cancer alike. All for believing in ourselves, even when victory seems impossible. All for working tirelessly as one for the good of all around us. As the official healthcare provider of the Detroit Lions, Henry Ford Health System is proud to keep our greatest athletes and their biggest fans at their best. Henry Ford Health System, all for you.
Welcome back into the Detroit Lions postgame show presented by Ford. I'm Tori Petrie. We've got TJ Lang down at the Henry Ford Health System update desk. TJ, we heard a little bit from interim head coach Darrell Bevell there on his postgame press conference. Obviously a very weird season for him, taking over after Thanksgiving as the interim head coach, brought a little bit of an injection of energy into this team, which was his goal. But obviously they fell short of winning out those final 5 games of the season that they had when he took over. What did you make of the job that Darrell did with the remainder of this season?
Yeah, well, I thought the first thing that stood out was the players looked a little bit more energized, right? You started with that Chicago game, a team you hadn't beaten in a couple years. You go out there, get a win, which was huge for the confidence and whatever. But it just looked like the team played a lot looser, right? Almost like they were – you're always going to make mistakes. You're never going to play a perfect game in the NFL. But it looked like they were playing more free as, hey, if we make a mistake, it's fine. Let's go out there next play, maybe try to correct it, maybe try to get it back. And just the way the players raved about him really – correct it, maybe try to get it back. And just the way the players raved about him really over the last 5 weeks, just talking about his leadership style and just starting to enjoy the process a little bit more, whether it's meetings, practice, games, having a little more fun. I know they didn't really get the results that he wanted individually or the players wanted, but you could definitely tell they competed a lot harder and a lot better. It started with the Bears game, obviously played Green Bay tough, losing by 7. Kind of a stinker against Tampa last week. That was really a whole team thing. But then today, obviously, playing Minnesota tough again. And this Minnesota team, you know, they're not going to the playoffs. We all know that. But this is a tough team, right? I mean, if they didn't get off to that horrible start that they did this year, they're probably a 9 or 10 win football team. And they beat Green Bay, you know, earlier this season. So that kind of shows you how tough this Minnesota team can be. Obviously not the finish that they wanted, but the way that he spoke about how proud he is of the guys to not give up on the season and go out there and lay it all on the field. And starting with a quarterback, Matthew Stafford, it would have been easy for him to say, you know what, I'm hurt, you know, Chase, go take the thing over. That type of attitude is contagious, and I really think it starts with the leadership style that Coach Bevel really kind of was able to implement on this team the last 4 or 5 weeks.
Well, he said in that press conference that he'll find out this week whether or not he will be interviewing for the open head coach position here in Detroit. All eyes will be on who the Lions hire for that position in this offseason. A lot of people paying attention to Matthew Stafford's storyline as well. Under contract here for 2 more years in Detroit. Had a fantastic game today against the Vikings. Obviously didn't come away with the win, but a pretty good record-setting day for him personally. Let's take a look at what Stafford had to say after the game.
Later today.
Obviously can't speak into the future, but I don't think about it at the moment. Obviously, just disappointed we couldn't get a win today. We fought hard. I got to give a lot of credit to our team. Played their ass off. Had some guys beat up on defense, some other guys stepping in and playing. Very similar situation up front for us on the offensive line side, and I thought those guys that came in, fought, and played really well. Obviously, I can't turn it over and hurt us like I did, so got to find a way to play a little bit better and help us get a win. It's always better to end the season on a win. So I don't care what your record is. It's nice to walk out with the winning taste in your mouth, and not getting that done is obviously disappointing, but got to move on.
Justin?
Hey, Matthew, there's no competitive advantage to protect going forward. I'm just curious, what were you dealing with today? What was the pain, I guess, you're going through with the 3 different injuries for this one?
I don't know. There are a bunch of stuff, but I'm just like everybody else. Doing whatever they can to be out there and play. I appreciate all the guys on our team that fought back. I mean, Danny Shelton getting his ass back out there and playing was awesome. I mean, there was a bunch of guys that had big-time efforts to get out there and play today. So I'm proud of those guys for that. As far as me, just similar stuff that the last couple of weeks, but obviously was able to be somewhat effective. Wish I could have been better, but felt like I could play, so wanted to be out there.
And then, we talk about roster turnover every year. Marvin Jones was the final game of his contract. We don't really know what his future holds, but really big performance today. I just wondered, what was it a point of emphasis for you going into this one to feed him the way you did, or is that just kind of the way the game plan developed naturally?
Kind of the way it developed, but Marv was hot early, and I was going to keep feeding him. Obviously, I wish that third touchdown would have stuck for him. I thought it was a great catch. I'm not sure it hit the ground, but maybe there's a better view. We didn't have a good one in the stadium, but was just happy for him, man. He's been a really good player for us for 5 years, and I've enjoyed playing with him, and we'll see what happens. Who knows? But guy's an incredible talent. Obviously, a great friend of mine and a great teammate. So just happy that he had a big day.
Thank you, man.
Yep.
Hey, Matthew. Your buddy Dan Orlovsky tweeted right after the game was over that he felt like this should be your last game in Detroit and that they should let you leave to go play somewhere else. When you hear people that you know saying that, what goes through your head?
It honestly doesn't matter if I know them or if I don't. I really don't pay too much attention to it. I just go about my business and go about my day-to-day, try to help this team win. All those kind of things in my mind will figure themselves out, and we'll go from there. But everybody has the right to their opinion. I know Dan well. He's a good friend of mine. But to me, don't pay too much attention to it.
And if for some reason this was your last game with the Lions, how would you hope that you were remembered?
I'm not going to get into that hypothetical. You guys can talk to me after whatever my last game is here. Who knows? So, but until that's final, I'm not going to have any thoughts on that. Sorry.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry to make this all about your future and whatnot, but what will go into that decision? I mean, do you know what you want to do, and you just don't want to say it, or do you have to sit down and make some discussions about what you want to do going forward?
I mean, I got 2 years left on my deal here, so there's a lot to discuss. I'll obviously, keep that between my family and I and all that, but we'll figure it out at some other date, I'm sure.
You do have 2 years left, but certainly if you wanted to, change the scenery, you could probably make that happen. Is that something that you'll consider at least this offseason?
I'm going to obviously just look back on this season, reflect on this season, hang out with my wife, my kids, cool down for a little bit, figure all that kind of stuff out at a later date.
Bevel mentioned the speech that you gave to the team last night. It just sounded like it was a fairly moving speech, stirring. This was just about how important all this stuff was to you. Can you share a little bit of insight as to why you said what you said and what you said in fact?
Yeah, I mean, he asked me to a couple other guys as well, but asked me to just talk about the game of football and why it's important. And I kind of shared my thoughts with my teammates. I didn't realize it was that moving, but I appreciate it. I was just honest. I mean, we're lucky to get to do what we do. We're part of history. We're part of this group of people that gets to call themselves NFL players or coaches or whatever it is, and that's a huge responsibility. And just wanted those guys to know that I feel like every time I come to work, I bear that responsibility. I want to hold up my end of the bargain, and I just wanted them to know that that's what's really important to me about this game, and some other stuff. But that was kind of the gist of it.
Do you know if you need any surgeries after the season yet?
I don't think so. I don't hope so. I mean, I hope not. I think I'm all right.
And then last thing, if Bevel, what do you think of Daryl's chances to be head coach of this team going forward?
I'm not going to get into that, but I was extremely proud of the way he stepped into that situation. It's a tough one. It's a tough year to be a coach in the NFL with all the extra, COVID stuff going on, all the regulations and all that. I mean, I thought he did an outstanding job. He's a heck of a person, and I think everybody got to realize that. I'm sure you guys did, getting your chances to talk to him a little bit more. He's a great person and a great coach, and I was just really happy, that he got the opportunity, and I think everybody in our locker room really rallied around him, which was awesome, and obviously want to win more football games than we did, but I thought he stepped in and did a great job.
Thanks, Matthew. Hello.
All right, time for two more. Tim, go ahead.
Hey, Matthew, thanks for taking the time. I'm just curious, what do you think about this offense's future? Some of the young pieces that you have. Do you think that the future is bright for this offense if you're part of it moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think, up front, we've got some really talented guys and some guys that play their ass off, which I love. I love those guys. They kept me clean and did a heck of a job. So I think up front we're in a really good spot. Obviously in the backfield, got some talented players, some young guys that can really play. And Hawk, I thought, did an outstanding job of developing from year one to year two. Jesse, Brian, all those guys. I mean, it was like, a bunch of playmakers at that position and at the receiver room. We'll see what happens, but I think I'm not even sure, to be honest with you, like who has their contract coming back or not. But I know Quintez did a great job stepping in and playing a big role. Kenny was down early in the season, and he had to fill in and did a great job. And then, kind of carved a role out for himself later on and played well. We'll see. But, I mean, there's a bunch of guys that work their tail off, show up to work every day, ready to make plays and try and score. And I really appreciate it about those guys. Make plays and try and score. And I really appreciate it about those guys.
All right, last one, Roach.
Matthew, it seems like more people express frustration for you than you express for yourself about your lot in life here. And and yet you go out there and play. And I wonder how hard it still is when the season ends and you put it all out there that it's over. You're not going to the playoffs, and it's happened a few times. How hard is it? Does it ever not get hard?
No, it's hard every time. Difficult, disappointing, all those words come to mind. Want to win, want to be in those games more than anything. Starts with me. I can play better, help us get there. That's the way I look at it. I want to win just as bad as anybody, if not more so. But the thing that I can control is how I play. And I could have played better to help us win some more games in some other spots this year, and maybe that gave us a chance. So I understand your question, but my focus is on what I can control and what I can manage, and that's just doing everything I can to make myself a better player.
Matthew Stafford being pretty coy about what his future holds here in Detroit. TJ Lang is down at the Henry Ford Health System update desk. We listened in to Stafford there. Not a lot of clues there on his future. He did talk about that speech that he gave last night to the team. Darrell Bevell spoke about that as well. And he was complimentary of Marvin Jones Jr. I'm sure he enjoyed throwing to that guy today, TJ. We talked a little bit about Matthew, and we'll talk more about this Lions game, but I do want to go to our out-of-town scores. Take a look at what's happening around the league. A few very important games happening today around the league. A lot of teams playing for playoff position. Take a look at that top row. The Browns getting the win over the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that puts them into the playoffs for the first time since 2002. Several other games still in action right here. TJ, what are you paying attention to?
Well, I think the first thing is, that Lions fans should be paying attention to is what's going to happen in the Houston and Philly game, right? I think as we sit right now going into the draft number 7, can't get any lower than that, but could, if Houston wins or Philly wins, you could bump up 1 or 2 spots. So might be a little bit more enticing having a top 5 pick to a new GM and new coach, but you got to be happy for the Browns, I think, right? I mean, they're not really a rival up here, a Midwest team, but Pittsburgh made it tough on him. Pittsburgh wasn't playing a whole lot of starters, but Cleveland was still able to find a way to win that game. They could be, I don't think they're Super Bowl contenders in Cleveland, but I've watched a couple games this year. You watched that Baltimore game a few weeks back on that Monday night. They've got potential to maybe make some noise. So Tampa obviously getting hot at the perfect time. They struggled a lot throughout the early part and middle of the season, getting to 6-6, 5-5, whatever it is, and then finishing obviously huge over Atlanta and Detroit last week. So see what happens with them in the postseason. I think this NFC race is going to be really, really fun to watch starting next week with these wild card games, whether it's Green Bay that gets the 1 seed or Saints given the home field advantage. You got really probably 3 or 4 teams in the NFC that are legit Super Bowl contenders. So that's going to be fun to watch. Green Bay, they've playing there for 8 years, we always used to say, man, we just got to get home field advantage one time because playing up here at Lambeau with the crowd and the snow will be fun. And Green Bay looks like they're going to get a 1 seed, but with no fans in the stands, which will be terrible. But obviously, they've had a heck of a year, and they're a couple quarters away from locking up that 1 seed over Chicago, getting that highly sought after bye, since there's only one of them. But this is going to be a really fun playoff race this year with 7 teams, 14 teams total, 7 from each conference. A lot of really good teams out there that have a chance to bring home the title at the end of the season.
Yeah, and you mentioned those 2 games that have implications for the Lions draft order, the game between the Eagles and Washington football team and the Texans and the Titans. However, both those opponents in those games are playing for a whole lot. So that's a tall order to ask either of those teams to win those games and give the Lions, better draft position. Obviously, if the Texans or Eagles win those games, it bumps the Lions up a bit, but the opponents they're playing in those games are sure playing for a lot. So I think maybe the Lions stick at number 7.
And, well, Philly's missing, last I checked, they're missing about 10 or 12 starters. On the defensive side of the ball, they're really hurting. But who knows, right? The NFC East has been a really weird division this year. If Washington wins, obviously they lock up the division, lock up somehow a home playoff game as a 7-win team. But if they don't, that means the Giants get in. And Giants won a really close game against Dallas today. They still have a chance. It's going to be hard for New York Giant fans tonight to root for the Philadelphia Eagles. That might feel a little weird for them, but Giants have a chance. That'd be a heck of an accomplishment, although I know the division has been down this year, but with the first-year coach and Joe Judge, that would definitely be a huge accomplishment for them to get in the playoffs, maybe get a home game, maybe win a game, maybe make a little bit of noise. Who knows what could happen.
Well, speaking of a weird and wild situation, the Lions had a few of those in this game, and I know one that you and I talked about, TJ, was that roughing the passer call on Tracy Walker. Definitely a game-changing play in this game. Darrell Bevell was asked about it after the game. He said the explanation that he received from the refs was the body weight was the issue, the body weight on the passer. What did you make of that call?
I'm glad I'm not a player anymore, because as a player, you're not allowed to criticize the refs. That was, in my 10 years of playing football and third year being retired, that was probably the worst call I've ever seen. And it was 4th and goal. I mean, it wasn't a 1st and goal where, oh, okay, it doesn't matter. That was 4th and goal. And the line, I mean, that changed the whole outcome of the game, because 2 plays later, Kirk Cousins scores to obviously get the lead back. It was awful. I could maybe see it if it was, you know, a guy like Nick Williams or Danny Shelton, who's 320 pounds, landing on Kirk Cousins. When you have a 190-pound Tracy Walker bringing down a quarterback that's bigger than him, what do you want him to do? Like, I really don't understand the call. It's one of the worst calls I've ever seen in my life. Twitter was going nuts. They showed Dean Blandino on the screen talking about the call. I mean, his face was beet red. He looked like he was embarrassed just to be a former official himself. There's a reason why this crew was reffing this game, right? You get a 5-10 team and a 6-9 team. I mean, it's going to be the worst probably the worst rated officiating crew throughout the whole season, throughout the league. So it's just it is what it is. I mean, it's a real huge bummer, especially for a guy like Tracy, who had just an amazing day with 12 or 13 tackles, couple pass deflection. I mean, he played awesome, and to be able to take that play away from him really, really stinks. But I think it'll be good going into the postseason, knowing that this specific referee crew their season's probably done as well. I don't think they're going to be handed a playoff game with the type of calls they made today.
You want to just take your headset off and just drop it there?
I'm trying to be nice, but there's no way you could possibly be nice after something like that. It's one of the worst. I mean, we have all know that they made a huge, deal about protecting quarterbacks, especially the last 4 or 5 years. But you have to understand the situation. It's 4th and goal, and it's a DB coming in and making that play. I mean, I really don't think there's anything else that Tracy Walker could have done. I think it was a very clean tackle. It should have been turnover on downs, Lions get the ball back, and the outcome is probably a little bit different. So coaches, players, I know they're going to say the right things, that you can't let one play define the game, but that was absolutely horrendous.
Well, certainly did change this game, that is for sure. I did appreciate the Lions Twitter account sharing a little bit of shade. They posted the video from the broadcast of Dean Blandino saying, hey, that shouldn't have been a penalty.
Right.
So,
thanks. What does that get you, though? I mean,
all in good fun, though. You like to see the Twitter account stick up for the players.
You have to. I mean, you have to. But this kind of goes. I mean, and I'm not going to rant forever, but this kind of goes back to the whole.
You're not?
Sky ref, conversation. There should be, if a ref makes that call right there, immediately there should be somebody buzzing him in saying, "Pick the flag up." You cannot change this game on a 4th and goal, sack, turnover on. You cannot do that, especially if it's clearly not a penalty, right? If it's tic-tac, okay, maybe, but you don't need these 50 reviews per game. It should be that easy, though. Throw the flag, hey, okay, no penalty. Pick it up, no flag on the play. I just don't understand. I mean, I'm gonna stop before I say something I shouldn't, but it was just one of the worst calls I've ever seen.
I think it's fair to question the call. You know, it was definitely a confusing one for sure. There were a few other confusing ones as well, but you do have to be able to roll with the calls, and you know, the calls aren't the only thing that happened in this game. We talked about a few other game-changing things, like the score just before the half. You know, just a couple of different plays in this game. The turnover that turned into a field goal for the Vikings. So, you know, there were other plays that mattered in this game as well, but that was certainly a game-changing one here today. All right, TJ, we've still got to get to our play of the game, which will be a positive play to look back on from this game. We will get to that after this quick break, so don't go anywhere.
You don't become a 117-year-old automaker in this country by refusing to change. The Ford Motor Company does not resist, deny, or ignore change. We pledge to make our most iconic vehicles electric, to use 100% renewable energy across all global manufacturing plants by 2035, to stand for lower greenhouse gas emissions, to stand with Americans and for the planet.
As a Marine, I learned resiliency. But when I lost my job, my home, and was living out of my car, I felt like a shadow of that person. Now, I'm working to end veteran homelessness. Nearly 40,000 veterans struggle like I did. But with the help of Rocket Mortgage and Built for Zero, my community has ended veteran homelessness. Yours can too. Join us. Visit ahomeforeveryvet.org to get involved.
Welcome back into the Detroit Lions postgame show presented by Ford. I'm Tori Petrie. That's TJ Lang down at the Henry Ford Health System update desk. TJ, we talked a lot about some of the records that were set in this game. Records that you don't want to see set, like the defense setting records for most points and yards allowed. Records that Matthew Stafford set as far as passing goes. Records for Marvin Jones Jr. for receiving. A record-setting day here at Ford Field for sure. But one of the highlights from today was Marvin Jones Jr. So we're going to make him our play of the game today. He had 2 touchdowns, should have been 3 maybe. But TJ, I'll have you walk us through these 2 touchdowns from Marv.
Yeah, the first touchdown was just, I mean, he just ran right by the corner. I don't know if, you know, we see the number down there, 41. He was trying to jump the route or whatever, but Marv, at his old age, he's still showing off the burners, right? And just what a perfect throw, too. I mean, that was an absolute dime. Early in the game there, kind of set the tone for what the Lions' game plan was going to be, taking a lot of shots downfield. And when you have a guy like 11 out there that's able to bring him in, sorry, cameraman, I hope that wasn't
that's
any of our guys.
That's Chad there. Chad falling down, but nice of Marv to help him up.
Any of our guys, yeah, I mean, that was a tough one. But, you know, deep balls. This one right here, start off the second half. What better way to come out and score a touchdown? Little double move, a little out and up, right? A lot of us ran in Pee Wee football, little pump fake from Stafford there. Not just enough, though, just enough to bite the corner. And it's always good when you see a DB on his feet because that means you have somebody wide open, and they made him pay. Those were obviously 2 huge plays in the game, one coming in the first quarter, the other one coming right out of the half, getting the ball going down there, taking the lead back. And then the third one, which I know didn't count. Don't know why it didn't count. Didn't see the ball hit the ground, but is what it is. Still just another huge day from Marv for 180 yards, a couple touchdowns. Ended up, I mean, we talked about the calls today. That third touchdown got called back, the toe tap, you know, a couple games back that didn't get called. I mean, I think he finished 20 yards away, 980 yards maybe from getting that 1,000-yard season that all receivers, you know, make a goal for themselves to get that. But we all know the truth. We watched him all season. We know he's one of the very dynamic player, and he was a big reason why Lions had a chance to win this game today. Him and number 9 back there. You saw some quotes from Marv after the game talking about, you know, pregame he was talking to Stafford, said, hey, let's put on the 9/11 show, baby, and they got it done today.
They did. They absolutely did. It was a show from those 2 guys. And you know, TJ, one more record that we have not discussed yet today really deserves to be talked about, and that is the record from kicker Matt Prater. Yep. He has now hit the most 50-plus yard field goals in NFL history. That means ever. He's made 59 of them. TJ, that's incredible.
It is. It's amazing. And I know, you know, Prater's a guy who's very hard on himself, and he'll tell you firsthand that, this year was a little bit up and down for him. Had a little bit of trouble throughout the extra points for some reason, but this 59, 50-yard touchdown or field goals, is insane. And everybody knows the game. Everybody knows the name Sebastian Janikowski. Matt Prater has taken over Sebastian Janikowski with this record. It's just absolutely impressive. And you talk about some of the kicks that he hit this year. I mean, going back to the Washington game and hitting that game winner from seemed like 60 yards, looked like it would have been good from 75. I mean, he just absolutely pounded the thing. And to watch him come out today and obviously hit another one, even though he kind of had a little bit of a weird year for him personally, I think it says a lot when the coaches still, they roll you out there, man. They know we got to get to the 40-yard line, fourth down. Send number 5 out there because he's going to hit it. And that kind of confidence from the coaching staff and your teammates goes a long way. And he's well-deserving, too. I mean, he's one of the, kickers aren't generally the hardest working guys on the team because they only practice about 10 minutes a day. But he is one of the – I've got to play with 2 greats, man. Him and Mason Crosby, 2 guys that are going to lead the record books for a long time when it comes to kicking. And he deserves it because he just attacks the game, man. He attacks every single kick like it's a game winner, and he's been one of the most consistent guys throughout his entire career, and one of my best friends, that still plays on this team. Super happy for him, and I know he'll probably be he'll be celebrating this one a little bit tonight.
Absolutely, and it is well deserved. Even with the missed kicks that he's had so far this season, it's never been a question of leg strength whatsoever. He's pointed that out this week, that it wasn't like any of his kicks were falling short. They were just kind of going maybe a little left, maybe a little right, and he plans to fix that this offseason. But a lot of question marks for him as he heads into this offseason. He's set to hit free agency, but he has talked about how he loves Detroit. He loves Michigan. His kids are in school here. His wife actually just opened up a business in Birmingham. I did a story on that this last week. You can find it on DetroitLions.com, the story of him and his wife opening up a business here and what Michigan has meant to him. So it will be interesting to see what happens with Prater this offseason.
Yeah, it is, and I think he deserves to stay around. With that kind of consistency at the kicker position is tough to find, right? You see a lot of changeover at that position throughout the league every single year. There's guys coming in, guys going out. Sometimes guys might have a rocky season or get shown the door. Matt Prater deserves to be here. He deserves to finish his career here, much like we saw with Jason Hansen playing all those years. And kickers could play forever. So it might seem like Prater's old. I mean, I don't know, 15 years in the league, but he's probably got another 5 or 6 really good years in him. And I know he loves the city of Detroit too, because like you said, obviously him and his wife Katie opening up their own business. I know he lives here full time. He loves Detroit, and it really has become a fan favorite since he got here. I really hope to see him return because not only is he one of my friends, but he's one of the most consistent guys that they have on the football team, and I know he's going to work his butt off this offseason to kind of correct some of the issues that he had on some of the extra points. The good thing is, he didn't really miss any kicks that cost him any games or anything like that. It obviously wasn't a good season for the whole team, but I really hope he returns. I mean, it's not that often. It's really hard to find a guy, with consistency that he has throughout his career. And I know if I was a betting man, I'd put my money on him to have a really strong comeback season next year.
Absolutely. Well, TJ, you mentioned it. This season didn't go how anyone wanted it to. The Lions finish at 5-11. This game, obviously, another disappointing one to add to that loss column. But when you look back at the season as a whole, how would you sum up how it went for the Lions and what they can take away from this 2020 year?
Well, obviously, getting off to a better start, I think, makes a huge difference. If you're able to come out, obviously this year they were always behind the 8 ball, coming out 0-2, trying to always find their way back to 500. But I think the biggest thing is coming down. You have to know how to finish. You have to know how to finish a play, finish a drive, finish the game, because we saw a lot of games this year and last year, unfortunately, that it never really seemed like the Lions were really out of it. It never seemed like they quit. They never did quit. I mean, this is a team that has a lot of pride. but you have to learn from those mistakes, and I don't think that's something that this team has really done in the past couple of years, because you look at last year, okay, we're not that far off. We obviously had the injury to Stafford, which hurt, but we're not that far off. You know, we just got to keep pushing, keep building, keep practicing, keep working on the things, and it'll pay off. They haven't gotten that to pay off yet, but they just have to find a way to kind of learn from the mistakes where. Like today, for example, if we get hosed by a call, you know, we got to find a way to make the next play, right? Just forget about it. Just go out there, next play, force a stop, maybe force a turnover, whatever it may be, get the momentum back on your side. It seemed like throughout the year, they never really had a whole lot of confidence or momentum on their side. And when they did, you know, I think where the season kind of started to fall apart was they had a chance against Carolina to get back to 6-6, and who knows what could have happened with the 7th playoff spot. You're at 6-6. You've got a pretty tough schedule, but maybe you could sneak out a couple more, make some noise. After that loss, it just kind of seemed like the season was just blah, you know. So I think that's going to be a big learning point too. We have a chance right there, no matter what point of the season it is, to get back to even, to make some noise. You got to take advantage of those opportunities, because you know that you don't get them very often. And for the older guys in the locker room, you know, Matthew Stafford, some other guys who are going to be free agents, I think at this point of the year is always very bittersweet, right? A lot of guys have the bags packed. They're ready to get back home to their families and go back to Florida, California, wherever it might be. But at the same time, you always have a bad taste in your mouth when you end the season this way. And hopefully that drives a lot of the guys that are going to be turning on this team to come back stronger than ever next year and try to get this thing turned around. There's going to be a whole lot of, uncertainty, right, with a lot of moving parts, player-wise, personnel-wise, coaching-wise. But you control the things, like Stafford said, you control the things that you can control. Maintain a positive attitude, positive mindset, control your attitude, control your effort, and good things are eventually going to come.
Yeah, a lot of questions to be answered this offseason, whether it be the head coach, the GM, some of the free agents that the Lions have coming up. TJ, what do you think is in store for this team in terms of how much they need to rebuild to get back to a place they can win?
Well, offensively, it's going to be interesting, right? I mean, a lot of questions about what's going to happen at the quarterback position. The only receiver that you have under contract is Quintez Cephas, right? I think Kenny Golladay will be back, whether it's they come to an agreement on a contract or they always have the franchise tag. I mean, that's a guy that you can't afford to lose him for nothing, right? You have to get something in return if you are going to get rid of him. So offensively, the offensive line looks like they're in a good spot for years to come, with Taylor Decker being under contract for a few more years. Really nice piece, Jonah Jackson, coming off a solid rookie year. Frank Ragnow has got a couple more years under contract. They've got really good building pieces on the line. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the receiver position. Running back, I mean, DeAndre Swift, we all kind of see he's primed for